imagine this. You take every single ounce of gold humans have ever pulled out of the ground.
Yeah, like every wedding band, every gold bar, those ancient masks.
Everything. Melt it all down, put it in one big pile. How big do you reckon that pile is? A mountain.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But no, you actually end up with this cube that's, well, kind of small.
How small?
If you plonked it down, say, right in the middle of Washington, D.C., it'd maybe be 70 feet tall, 70 feet wide, 70 feet deep.
70 feet, that's it. It seems tiny.
Exactly. It's visually, well, pretty underwhelming when you think about the massive psychological weight, the economic power it's had for, what, 5,000 years?
That's a crazy paradox, isn't it? This little lump of soft, shiny metal. It doesn't feed you, can't keep you warm, basically useless for staying alive. Yet somehow, it became the bedrock of global wealth. How did that happen?
That's what we're digging into. It's this amazing story, really, defined by these huge shifts in how people thought, these massive psychological leaps.
So we're going from, like, cosmic dust to Bitcoin, almost. Looking at how we got from physical metal to paper promises and, why gold is suddenly so relevant again.
It really is. And if you look at that modest cube we talked about,
Sure.
Recent analysis shows almost half, like 45%, is just decoration.
Wow. Jewelry, you mean? Old coffins, those giant gold Buddhas you see pictures of?
Precisely. Just sitting there looking pretty. Held captive, in a way.
And then there's a tiny bit used in industry, right, for its actual properties.
Yeah. A sliver. Dental fillings, high-tech electronics where you need that conductivity and resistive to corrosion. But it's a really small fraction.
So where's the rest?
Well, the truly mind-boggling chunk is just sitting there, doing nothing. In super high security vaults, think under Manhattan, under London.
Just gathering dust.
Pretty much, held by governments, by central banks, big-time investors. And right now, that dusty pile is suddenly front and center again.
Because governments are buying up like crazy.
You got it. Based on what we're seeing, places like Russia, China, they are snapping up physical gold, swapping dollars for metal like there's no tomorrow.
And even U.S. states. I heard Florida was trying something.
Yeah, Florida's making moves to sort of reestablish gold as, well, usable money within the state. It's fascinating.
And the price is hitting record highs.
Yeah.
All driven by, what, global tensions, worries about the Fed?
All of the above. Geopolitical uncertainty, political fights here at home about central banks and their power. The metal's power never went away, you see. It just kind of shifted its role in our heads.
So to really get why it's still the ultimate safety net, we need to follow that whole mental journey, step by step.
It's the ultimate story of trust. Or maybe the lack of trust.
Exactly. And look, if you find this kind of analysis useful, taking complex stuff from different places and making sense of it fast, which is what we rely on, frankly, then you really should subscribe to Cred Edge now.
Get that edge. Stay informed. It's crucial right now.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Where does gold even come from? Not just mines, right?
Not originally, no. It's actually kind of amazing. Its story starts in space, deep space. Gold is literally stardust.
Stardust? Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. It's a key thing to grasp. Most heavy metals, gold included, they weren't formed here on Earth. They were forged inside stars during these incredibly violent explosions, supernovae.
Wow.
And then they hitched a ride here much later, mostly packed into asteroids that slammed into the young Earth. So gold is basically, leftover space debris from cosmic disasters.
Okay, that's a cool origin story.
Mhm.
But why did humans latch onto it specifically, out of all the stuff raining down?
Well, part of it is just physics. It's unique atomic structure. Get this. The electrons whizzing around inside a gold atom, they move incredibly fast.
How fast?
Near the speed of light. And that speed has weird effects, relativistic effects, they call them.
Okay.
It makes the gold atom absorb high-energy blue light, but it reflects the lower-energy yellows and reds really well.
So that's why it's yellow and shiny, because its electrons are super fast.
Basically, yeah. No other common metal really does that. So it looked completely different, instantly eye-catching, when early humans saw it glinting in a riverbed.
And it wasn't just the looks, right? It had practical things going for it, too.
Oh, absolutely. Beyond the bling, its properties were just perfect for something you want to keep. Chemically, it's almost incorruptible.
Meaning?
It doesn't rust, it doesn't tarnish, it doesn't degrade. It's basically eternal. You could drop a Spanish gold coin in the ocean in, say, 1650, pull it up today, wipe off the seaweed, and chemically, it's identical, exactly the same as the day it was minted. Indestructible.
Wow. And physically.
Physically, it's a bit of a contradiction. It's super dense, which gives it that satisfying weight, makes it feel substantial, and easy to carry small amounts that are worth a lot.
Right.
But it's also incredibly soft. Malleable is the technical term. You can hammer a tiny piece into a sheet so thin you can almost see through it. Or draw it out into a wire thinner than your hair.
So it's heavy but easy to work with.
Precisely. And this combination of looks and properties, it captivated people everywhere, independently.
Like who?
Well, the ancient Chinese, folks in the Indus Valley, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Incas in South America, all of them fell for gold long before it was really about money.
What was it about then? Magic? Religion?
A lot of that, yeah. Divinity. The Incas called it the sweat of the sun. They thought it literally dripped from their sun god.
Sweat of the sun. Right.
So they covered their temples in it. Rulers wore it on their faces. King Solomon famously plated parts of his temple.
And we find it in really old grave sites too, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Back 6,000 years ago, places like the Varna Necropolis in Bulgaria, they've found gold bracelets, scepters. It meant power, status, connection to the afterlife.
And some people even tried to, eat it? For immortality.
Yes, some Chinese emperors, bless their hearts, and the logic was, gold is eternal, so if I ingest it, maybe I'll be eternal too.
Didn't work out so well, I guess.
Spoiler alert, nope, doesn't work. But it shows you how deep that fascination, that belief in its special power went.
Okay, so we've got this amazing, eternal, shiny, workable, kind of rare metal that everyone loves. Yeah. The stage is set for the next big thing, money.
Exactly. As societies got bigger, trade routes longer, they needed something better to trade with, and gold was waiting. That's the first huge psychological leap. Before gold, people traded using stuff that was, actually useful, stuff with intrinsic value.
Things you could eat or use directly.
Right. Think barley, where value was measured by weight. Salt was huge in some places. And the big one, of course, was livestock. Cattle.
Cattle makes sense. I mean, they give you food, leather, they can pull stuff.
They transport themselves.
They eat grass, so low maintenance.
Totally practical in many ways. Seems like the obvious choice for early money.
But there's always a but.
Always. They had some major downsides, especially as trade got more complex, like try making change for a cow.
Yeah. Bit difficult to give someone half a cow back.
Exactly. Not easily divisible. Plus, they get old, they get sick, they die. They spoil, in economic terms. Storing them is hard. Standardizing them is hard. Is this cow worth the same as that cow?
And moving huge herds across long distances must have been a nightmare.
A logistical nightmare. So you needed something better. And that's where gold just slotted in perfectly. It solved all the cattle problems.
Oh, so?
Well, easy to shape, right? Infinitely divisible. You can shave off tiny amounts. Super easy to carry compared to a cow.
And it looked cool, let's be honest.
Humans love shiny things. Can't discount that. And crucially, it hit that sweet spot of rarity.
Rare, but not too rare.
Exactly. Enough existed that you could actually mine it and use it for trade, but not so much that it became worthless, like, say, rocks or even silver later on. Gold ticked all the boxes. Scarce, durable, divisible, portable, universally desired.
But here's the really wild part, the mental jump we had to make. Gold itself, still basically useless for survival.
Bingo. That's the core insight. It has no intrinsic utility. You can't eat it, can't build a house with it. Its value is 100% based on what we believe about it collectively.
So it's like a shared agreement.
It's the ultimate system of trust. It works like this. If I have wheat, which you need, and you have a gold nugget, and we both agree that this shiny metal represents a certain amount of value, maybe stored labor or future goods, then we can trade. You get the useful wheat, I get the gold, which I trust someone else will accept for me for something I need.
That is a massive conceptual leap, moving from trading useful stuff like cows to trading a pretty metal just because we all agree it's valuable.
Monumental. It's what allowed specialization, complex economies, global trade. It's all built on that shared faith in an abstract symbol.
So first, big abstraction. Useful good, cow, gets replaced by useless but awesome metal.
Bubble tall.
Purely based on belief. And that belief spread like wildfire.
It really did. It became infectious. And yeah, silver had a moment. It's like gold's forgotten cousin.
Why didn't silver make the cut?
Two main reasons. One, it tarnishes. It's not as incorruptible or, frankly, as shiny and appealing as gold. But the bigger issue was abundance. There was just too much silver discovered, especially later. It flooded markets, made prices swing wildly, not stable enough.
So gold won out. Stable, scarce, shiny.
Gold endured. And once that belief was locked in, especially when rulers started stamping bits of it into standardized coins with their seal, oh boy.
Then it became something worth fighting for. Violently.
Relentlessly. And tragically, look at the Spanish conquest, 1519. Cortez meets Montezuma.
The Aztec emperor.
Right. For Montezuma and the Aztecs, gold was sacred, spiritual, used for amazing decorations, masks, armor, even blades. It wasn't primarily economic for them.
But for the Spanish.
For Cortez and his men, gold meant one thing: wealth. Pure, simple, transferable wealth. Power. There's that famous quote from one of them, saying they suffered from a disease of the heart that can only be cured by gold. That sums up the mindset shift.
And the result was brutal.
Catastrophic. They massacred the Aztec leaders, then immediately started melting down all this incredible, unique Aztec art. Statues, jewelry, everything.
Just melted it. Why?
To turn it into uniform blocks, ingots, stamped with the Spanish king's seal, standardized units of value. They literally destroyed a civilization's history and art to make coins.
That's grim.
It really is. And that act cemented gold's role. It fueled centuries of European conquest, the mad search for El Dorado, the 7 cities of Cibola, all chasing the metal.
The belief system was now total. Gold equals power. Gold equals wealth.
Absolutely. Fast forward to the 1800s, and that belief drove ordinary people into frenzies, the gold rushes.
The gold fever. California 49ers, right?
Then the Klondike in Canada's frozen north, huge strikes in South Africa, Australia, even the Amazon. It was global madness.
People dropping everything to chase a rumor of gold.
Dreamers, gamblers, desperate men. It caused these massive migrations, total chaos, incredible hardship, brutal adventures. One writer nailed it, calling it a murderous, cruel, intoxicating, brutal adventure that swallowed an entire civilization and spat it out as coins.
Wow, that captures the intensity, the greed it inspired.
A uniquely powerful greed. But okay, now gold is the universal currency. Problem solved? Not quite. Now you have a new problem.
What's that?
Wait, try settling a huge international trade deal with tons of physical gold. It's cumbersome, risky to transport.
Right, you can't easily ship a mountain of gold bars across the ocean.
Exactly. Which leads us to the next great psychological trick, the paper IOU.
The banknote.
Precisely. Instead of carrying the gold, you deposit it with someone trustworthy, like a goldsmith or an early bank.
And they give you a piece of paper.
A receipt, a banknote, saying, this piece of paper is good for X amount of gold, redeemable on demand.
And people accepted this. Paper instead of actual gold.
They did, because it was convenient. In the U.S., early on, the value was often set, like 1 ounce of gold equals about $20 on paper. The trust shifts again, see?
From the metal itself.
To the institution holding the paper.
Yeah.
You had to trust that the bank actually had the gold in its vault to back up that note if you wanted it.
That's another layer of abstraction. Makes trade way easier, though.
Hugely easier.
Oh.
But also introduces new complexities, like, should the paper be backed only by gold? Or maybe gold and silver?
The bimetallism debate. I remember reading about that. It got messy.
Very messy. There's a key economic idea here, Gresham's Law. Ever hear of it?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Gresham's Law basically says bad money drives out good.
Meaning?
So if the government fixes an exchange rate between gold and silver, say 16 ounces of silver equals 1 ounce of gold, but then, boom, someone discovers a massive silver mine in Nevada.
Uh-oh. Silver floods the market. Its real value drops.
Exactly. But the official rate is still 16-1, so silver becomes the bad money officially overvalued. Gold becomes the good money officially undervalued.
So what do people do?
They hoard the good stuff, they keep the gold because it's worth more than the government says, and they spend the bad stuff, the cheap silver, as fast as they can.
Drives the gold out of circulation. Chaos.
Total chaos made the system really unstable, which, fun fact, ties into The Wizard of Oz.
Really? How?
In the original book, Dorothy's slippers weren't ruby red, they were silver.
No way.
Yep. Representing the silver standard, populists wanted using cheap silver to cause inflation and help farmers pay off debts. And the yellow brick road.
The gold standard. Oh, that's brilliant.
Right. It's a political allegory for the whole debate. Anyway, by 1900, the bimetallism fight was mostly lost. Gold won.
So the world settles on the gold standard. One metal, fixed value, paper notes backed by it. seems stable.
For a while, yeah. It established a solid foundation. $20 equals 1 ounce of gold. That was the rule.
Okay, we've come a long way. Stardust, magic, cows, coins, paper IOUs. We're about to hit the really radical changes, the move away from gold entirely. But first, let's pause. If you want analysis that cuts through the noise and gets you the insights you need, fast, you need to be subscribed to CredEdge. Seriously, do it now.
Stay ahead of the curve. Subscribe to CredEdge.
Right, so the gold standard is in place, early 20th century. Seems solid, but you said it had a fatal flaw, especially as economies got bigger.
Yeah, the flaw was really about liquidity and trust in a decentralized system. You had all these private banks issuing their own paper money, supposedly backed by gold, but they were super vulnerable to panics, bank runs. If people got nervous about the economy, even based on a rumor,
they'd all rush to the bank at once, demanding their physical gold back for their paper notes.
Exactly. And no bank actually holds enough physical gold to cover all its notes at the same time. They lend most of it out. That's how they make money.
So a bank run could drain their vaults fast.
Instantly. Which meant the bank collapses, lending freezes up across the board, and that chokes economic growth because growth relies on banks lending money out.
Okay, so the government sees this happening repeatedly. Panics, bank failures.
Yeah.
Not good for a growing industrial economy.
Not good at all. They realized you couldn't have hundreds of private banks controlling the nation's money supply independently. It was too unstable. You needed centralization.
Control.
Enter the Federal Reserve.
Bingo. The Fed, created in 1913, the idea was one bank to rule them all, basically. To be the lender of last resort, bail out banks in a panic, to manage financial crises, and crucially, to issue a single standard national currency, the Federal Reserve note, your dollar bill.
But was it still tied to gold?
Officially, yes. The dollar was still pegged at $20 an ounce. But things started shifting subtly. It became harder for regular folks just to walk into any bank and swap paper for gold whenever they felt like it. The Fed was managing the system now.
And the Fed got tools, right? Those proverbial levers they talk about. Yeah, things like setting the discount rate. That's the interest rate banks pay to borrow directly from the Fed. By tweaking rates, the Fed could encourage or discourage borrowing and spending, trying to steer the economy.
So how did that work out in the early days, the Roaring 20s?
Well, there's a strong argument, backed by a lot of economic historians, that the Fed kind of messed up. They kept interest rates too low for too long during the 20s.
Why is that bad? Sounds good. Cheap money.
It fueled a massive bubble. Cheap credit led to crazy speculation, overinvestment in factories, stocks, this huge, unsustainable boom.
Okay. Setting up for a fall.
Yeah.
And when the bubble burst in 1929, the Great Depression starts. Could the Fed fix it?
This is where the gold standard became a massive handcuff. In theory, the Fed knew what to do or what it should have done to fight a depression.
Like what?
Flood the system with money, print cash, slash interest rates down to basically zero, make it super cheap to borrow and spend, get things moving again.
But they couldn't. Why not?
Because they were terrified of breaking the gold standard. They had to defend that $20 an ounce price.
How did fighting the depression conflict with the gold price?
Think about it. If the Fed prints tons of money and cuts rates to zero, what happens? People, especially foreign banks holding dollars, expect inflation. They know their dollars will be worth less soon.
So they'd want to get rid of their dollars and get something solid, like gold.
Exactly. They'd rush to cash in their dollars for physical gold bars at that fixed $20 price before the dollar lost value.
Draining the U.S. gold reserves? Fort Knox?
Emptying the vaults, which would collapse the whole fixed exchange rate system the gold standard relied on. So the Fed was paralyzed. Fear of a run on gold stopped them from doing what was needed economically.
Their inaction made the depression much, much worse.
Dramatically worse. Prolonged it for years. This total failure led directly to the next massive psychological leap, the third one.
Which was?
The end of the gold standard for Americans. 1933.
FDR, right.
Whoa.
Roosevelt steps in.
Yeah. Facing absolute catastrophe, FDR basically said, this gold standard has screwed us. It tied our hands in a crisis. He took a really radical step.
What did he do?
Issued an executive order. Forced Americans to turn in their gold coins, their gold certificates. You had to swap them for regular dollar bills. Owning gold became illegal for citizens.
Wow. They just took people's gold.
Pretty much, yeah. In exchange for paper dollars, this was a revolution. The entire foundation of the U.S. currency changed overnight.
From gold backing
to fiat money. Fiat just means by decree or by order of the government.
So the dollar was now valuable just because the government said so.
Partly. But also, crucially, because the government demanded it. You had to pay your taxes in dollars. That creates a permanent base of demand. It's backed by the government's authority and its power to tax.
The belief shifted again, completely. No longer trust in metal.
But trust in the government's ability to manage the system, keep things stable, prevent runaway inflation, trust in the machine itself.
But gold wasn't totally out of the picture globally, was it? What about after World War II?
Good point. No, it made a comeback, indirectly. After the war, the world needed a stable financial system. All the major powers met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire in 1944.
And the U.S. was basically the only major economy left standing strong?
Exactly. The U.S. had most of the world's gold stored safely in Fort Knox, so they made a proposal, a brilliant one, really.
What was the deal?
The U.S. dollar would become the world's main reserve currency, the anchor for everything else, and the U.S. made a promise to its allies, to foreign central banks.
The promise being?
While U.S. citizens couldn't hold gold, foreign governments could. They could exchange their U.S. dollars for real, physical gold bars from Fort Knox at a new fixed rate, $35 an ounce.
So the dollar was king, but it was still sort of backed by gold, at least internationally.
Precisely. The dollar sat at the center of the universe, and gold was the hidden guarantor, locked away but theoretically available to other countries. Gold was back, but behind the throne this time.
Okay, so Bretton Woods sets up this system. Dollar is global king, backed by gold at $35 an ounce for foreign governments. How long did that last?
Almost 3 decades. But eventually, the U.S. couldn't keep its promise. The math just didn't work anymore.
Why not? What happened?
Well, the U.S. got ambitious. Very expensive ambitions, like funding the Vietnam War, a massive, costly conflict. And at the same time, launching huge domestic spending programs, President Johnson's Great Society initiatives, Social Security expansion, Medicare, Medicaid, noble goals maybe, but incredibly expensive.
And they paid for it by?
Printing money. Lots and lots of dollars. Way more dollars than they actually had gold in Fort Knox to back up at that fixed $35 an ounce rate.
So the dollar started to look shaky, overvalued compared to the gold it supposedly represented.
Fundamentally overvalued. And other countries noticed, especially savvy ones like France under de Gaulle and West Germany.
What did they do?
They started calling America's bluff. They saw the U.S. printing money like crazy and thought, hey, this dollar might not be worth $35 in gold for much longer. Let's cash in our excess dollars now while we still can.
So they started trading their dollars back to the U.S. for actual gold bars at the cheap $35 rate.
You got it. They were essentially arbitraging the difference between the official price and the real weakening value of the dollar. The pressure mounted. The U.S. was losing gold fast.
I heard France even sent a warship.
That's the story, yeah. In the mid-60s, France reportedly sent a naval vessel to New York Harbor to physically pick up its gold bullion from the Fed's vaults. Whether it was a warship or not, the point was clear. We want the metal, not the paper.
The system was breeding gold. It couldn't last.
It was unsustainable. The U.S. was facing a full-blown run on its gold reserves. Something had to give.
Enter Richard Nixon.
August 15th, 1971, a date that really should be better known. Nixon goes on TV, shocks the world.
What did he announce?
He unilaterally immediately shut the gold window, just slammed it shut, ended the convertibility of the U.S. dollar into gold for everyone, foreign governments included.
Just like that. Broke the promise.
Just like that. Severed the final link. That was the Nixon shock. And that, right there, was the final total abstraction. The world officially moved onto a pure fiat currency system.
Meaning the value of the dollar, and by extension most global currencies linked to it, was now based on?
Purely on belief. Belief in the stability of the U.S. government, belief in the skill and judgment of the folks running the Federal Reserve specifically, the 19 people on the Federal Open Market Committee who set monetary policy.
No anchor to anything physical, just trust in the system and the people running it.
Exactly. And that's the system we live in today. Now, there is a fierce debate about whether this is good or bad.
What are the supporters saying?
Proponents argue fiat gives essential flexibility. Central banks can act fast in a crisis, like in 2008 or during COVID. They can inject money, cut rates, prevent depressions in a way they couldn't under the rigid gold standard.
Okay, flexibility is good. What's the catch? What do critics say?
Critics say it gives central banks too much power. This ability to print infinite money encourages governments to run up massive debts, they argue. It lets the Fed manipulate markets with artificially low interest rates, creating bubbles.
And the big one, inflation.
That's the killer app for critics. Fiat money, they say, inevitably gets devalued over time through inflation, silently stealing the purchasing power of people's savings. There's no discipline, no finite anchor like gold to prevent overprinting.
It's a fundamental disagreement about trust and control.
Absolutely. And right now, regardless of which side you're on, something major is happening. That trust in the current fiat system seems to be fraying. Big time.
You mean globally?
Globally, yes. We're seeing this psychological shift back towards things people can trust aren't just promises. Geopolitical rivals like China and Russia are actively trying to de-dollarize.
Move away from using the U.S. dollar for international trade. Why?
Because they've seen the U.S. use the dollar as a weapon through sanctions, freezing assets. If your enemy controls the global currency system, they can inflict serious pain.
So they want an alternative they control. Or something neutral.
Exactly. Which is precisely why they are buying physical gold hand over fist, storing it in their own vaults. Gold can't be sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury. It can't be printed into oblivion by the Fed. It's outside that system.
It's the ultimate hedge against U.S. financial power and potentially U.S. mistakes.
That's how they see it. And this same search for trust for something outside centralized control has also fueled the rise of a totally new kind of asset.
You're talking Bitcoin. Crypto.
Yep, Bitcoin and some other major cryptocurrencies. Conceptually, psychologically, they're seen by many as digital gold.
Why digital gold? What's the connection?
Well, they aim to replicate gold's key features in the digital realm. Scarcity Bitcoin has a mathematically fixed supply, only 21 million will ever exist. Durability, it lives on a decentralized network, hard to destroy. Divisibility, portability.
And crucially, it's not controlled by any single government or central bank.
That's the core appeal for many. It's permissionless. It exists outside the traditional financial system. It's seen as a direct check on the power of the Fed and other central banks.
The idea being, if the Fed prints too many dollars and causes high inflation,
people have an alternative store of value they can switch to, something the government can't easily inflate away or confiscate. Like gold, but digital.
So we're definitely in a new phase of this long story about money and trust. The basic questions remain the same, though. What's truly scarce? What's truly trustworthy?
It's been one heck of a journey, hasn't it? From useful cows, to shiny stardust metal, to paper promises, to faith in a central committee, and now back to metal and maybe even digital code.
And through all those incredible mental gymnastics, all the complex systems we built, it's kind of amazing that the simple, basic properties of gold, easily divided, easily stored, never rusts, hard to find, still make it the ultimate fallback.
The thing people instinctively reach for when those systems built on pure belief start to feel shaky.
Gold remains that solid physical anchor against government overreach, against inflation, against the unknown. It's enduring.
Absolutely. Look, for more insights like this, stuff that cuts through the complexity and tells you what really matters in the financial world, you need CredEdge. Subscribe now. Don't miss out.